Welcome back to Crimson Ed Talks. I'm your host, Jamie, CEO and co-founder of Crimson Education, and today we're back with the legendary Adam Joseph, founder of Clipbook, a Harvard grad, a Fulbright scholar, and particularly for today, a BCG graduate. Adam, to give some of our high school students a bit of background, what is BCG? What do you do at BCG? Tell us a bit about this.
Sure. Boston Consulting Group is one of the largest strategy consulting firms in the world. It focuses on providing a range of services that help clients navigate the world from whatever their most pressing, important strategic decision points might be. So BCG teams will work in close sprints of maybe 1 to 12 months. We'll work on whatever the client needs and whatever is most important. We'll deliver a strategic overview of whatever's going to be best for their business, and then we'll help drive them forward and drive some impact in the organization. So I was really glad to have worked there.
And growing up in New Zealand, I just hadn't heard of this industry. But once I stepped foot on Harvard, management consulting was kind of, a frenzy. People wanted to work at, Bain, Boston Consulting Group, McKinsey, Oliver Wyman, these types of firms. It's a very huge employer at Harvard. Tell us, where does the magic come from when it comes to management consulting? Why is it so desirable for these college students?
I think for three things. The first is the fundamental learning that you get while a strategy consultant, learning the basics of business analysis, of business communications, of how to run projects. The training ground is sometimes some of the best in business that you can find at a strategy consulting firm. So that's the first. The second is the peer that you actually get to work with. So, if you're graduating from undergrad, you're starting at BCG and let's say the Washington, D.C. office or the Chicago office. You'll start with a number of other folks who just graduated from undergrad or from their MBA program. They become your class at BCG or McKinsey or Bain. And you form a lot of really lifelong important relationships that have profound positive impact for you kind of in the long term. So the second is the network. The third is that the firm places people in the higher and upper echelons of business more broadly. And if you look at the executive teams of some of the most impactful companies in the world in the Fortune 100, there's a good chance that you're going to find former strategy consultants there. So those three things, I think, are what really drive the desirability of strategy consulting, of pursuing some of those careers.
Amazing. And I guess from the BCG side, why does BCG or McKinsey or Bain want to hire so many of these, young, in your case, Harvard grads? What is it about this? Why don't they hire, for example, 40-year-old former CEOs to do this kind of strategy advice? What is it about this young talent that kind of feeds their business model?
Well, I think that the young, really raw, talented, some of the smartest minds in the country, are really coming to the table oftentimes without a predisposed way about how to do things. So they're a blank sheet of paper, and the firm can actually really focus on training them in a lot of the best practices that drive the business to ultimately be successful. So I think that that's like a huge part of it. I think also the folks at that age, 22 or maybe recent MBA graduates are sometimes the most hungry, the most excited, the most energetic about, really client work, about working with BCG teams for sometimes the most complicated projects that might be, imaginable for the Fortune 100 and for public sector clients and beyond. So I think a range of those reasons are what drive the decision.
Incredible. And for many of our high school students, they're sitting here today, they've got little or no work experience, and they're wondering things like, should I do an internship? What is the sort of benefit of doing an internship or a work experience in high school? Is that necessary? What's your take?
I think the more exposure you can get to the real world as early as possible, I think the better. So even an exposure to real live professionals that are out there solving problems, having an impact can be great. I think even the ability in high school to kind of take on a few different tasks in the workplace that might provide some support will give you a great line of sight into how the industry works. What are the key positives? Some of the challenges maybe working in that space. Give you a sense of, hey, do I see myself actually working in a company or a nonprofit or an organization like this one day? So I think that sort of exposure can be super, super helpful. Really invalidating some of your initial interests as you're heading into college and beyond.
Now, it's normally quite hard to find high school experience programs. We've actually put a lot of work into our Delta Institute to partner with some of the world's leading companies so that kids as young as 13 can begin getting work experience with amazing organizations. What kind of age would you recommend beginning this? Like, do you think that kids should be 17, or do you think a 13-year-old should go ahead and begin learning this? Is there an age that's sort of too early to start this?
No, I think start as early as you can. I think that the more that your interest can evolve over the course of your 4 years in high school, I think is great. So no age is too young. I think also being able to show and to have for yourself longevity with different types of organizations over time can be really important. So say if you take an internship your freshman year of high school with a nonprofit, maybe the next summer you're doing something a little bit more senior with them. Maybe you do something during the school year or on weekends. They, give you more and more responsibility that, gives you more opportunity to honestly to learn, to have an impact, and to hopefully zero in on what you love doing.
And would you say it's better for students to wait till they already know what they want to do to then do an internship? Or is there value in kind of doing internships across different fields?
I think in high school in the early days, cast a wide net, discover what you like, use those opportunities to validate some of your interests. Sometimes you might do an internship and say, "Oh gosh, this was not for me. I hated working here. This was terrible." But oh my gosh, this other, maybe interning and volunteering at this hospital was just amazing. I love the healthcare setting. Maybe I want to be a doctor one day. I think that sort of hypothesis testing is encouraged. I think it's really awesome.
Fantastic, fantastic. Now, a lot of students, I would say, also they haven't yet worked in teams with other students. One of the things I've observed is that in high school, you kind of work on academics, you work on homework projects, whatever. But actually, internships are a great way for you to actually be thrown in like a team-based dynamic in a workplace, which is very different. And ultimately, there's like the famous first college project where there's four kids, one kid does everything, and it's a disaster. But it's really good if in high school people can begin to feel what it's like to have team dynamics, to manage different stakeholders. I think that's often quite insightful.
I was going to say, I agree wholly. I think, oftentimes the challenge of leadership is just how to wrangle and work with people, right? How to motivate them, how to structure their work, how to engage them, how to keep them motivated, how to handle conflict or, disagreement. So yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Amazing. I think one thing also interesting, as college admissions gets more competitive, this year we had 240 Ivy League offers, which is the most in the world in industry. Very exciting. And
Wow.
of that, a lot of the students getting into these top schools, they do have different work experiences. So I think of one of our students from last cycle, Artie, who got into Yale, Stanford, and Wharton. And he, for example, got some PwC experience through these work experience programs. That made a big deal. Getting into schools like Wharton that kind of love to see that pre-existing business experience. So it's interesting because I think, back when we were in high school, the idea of internships were more optional probably. But these days, they're definitely growing in relevance for aspirational college kids trying to get into schools like Harvard that, like we did back in high school. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for another amazing episode with Crimson Ed Talks. Adam, it's been great. For our high school students listening, BCG is definitely an incredible company to look for. Many of our Crimson alumni, like Louisa, for example, or folks like, Gia at McKinsey or Jeffrey at Bain have, made it happen at MBB. And Adam's a wonderful role model of what can happen when you have that management consulting experience. So make sure you go at it.
Great. Thanks, Jamie.